watch something cool?
I do.
Yeah, me too. Alright, watch this instead.
Oi, oi, oi! Raptor Gaming!
Hello and welcome to Punk Raptor Gaming. This is your host, Captain Arcane, and today we are bringing you the Dreamcast. Now, you may be saying to yourself, oh, this again, or why should I care, or stop beating a dead horse, Arcane. It's a system that's almost as old and underwhelmingly satisfying as you, Arcane, and you'd be partially right. The Dreamcast, however, is still turgidly satisfying indeed. The specifications of the Dreamcast were fairly impressive at the time, compared to the competition. A big jump up from the original PlayStation and Sega Saturn specs only 4 years previously. The original specs for the US version would have been even better had Sega Japan not sounded a pants-bursting brown note by ditching the PowerPC/3DFX combo originally planned. Unfortunately, it was too little, too late. That combined with poor marketing and the barbarian hordes of Sony and Microsoft pounding at the gate meant that the end was all too soon. So why care? I think of it as a much less successful Wii in that it was very innovative for the time. It brought broadband to the home console market for the first time, and had lots of nifty peripherals to play with, one of the coolest being actually the memory card, the VMU. These little guys not only functioned as a memory card and a secondary display, something not again realized until the Wii U, but were also in and of themselves their own mini handheld game systems. You could even play multiplayer by sticking them together, like that, and then you could kick somebody's ass. The developers sadly never really got a grip on these things and never really used them for anything great. They couldn't get used to the new voodoo, I guess. But in any case, the homebrew scene sure has made effective use of it lately, so you can check that out. The controllers, on the other hand, were not so great. They were large and uncomfortable. Rumble packs were still added separately. I will say that they are at least fairly sturdy, and I've never had one break on me. This is still my original from when I bought it back in the day. It had great games. Titles like Soul Calibur, Phantasy Star Online, and Shenmue were just a handful. And you'd be missing out on some great titles if you didn't suck it up and grab one of these consoles while you can. Because they're cheap. So are a lot of the games. So cheap, in fact, that you could pick up one for spare parts. Or maybe 3, like I did. So now we're going to show you how to keep these babies alive long after they've disappeared off of eBay. First thing we're going to check out is this, the GD-ROM. If anything's going to go bad, that's going to be first. There's going to be a few other things we're going to cover later, but yeah, this is generally what gives up the ghost. These are the tools you're going to need. Not kidding. If you're going to pick a console to take apart, especially one with any kind of laser media, this is about the easiest and best one that you could possibly hope for. It is so simple. Before you do anything, however, if you had this plugged in recently, please unplug it, push the power button, leave it in for like 30 seconds to a minute, and let those capacitors drain out. Nobody needs a skin graft. Not today. We start with the modem, which slides right out. And if you were lucky enough to have the broadband adapter before it became more rare than trimmed bush in a 70s porno, you're one of the lucky ones. So, there's that. Next, we have 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get those undone. Unscrewing. There we go. And the top pops off. So there we go. Now, remember what I said about these capacitors here? Yeah. Nobody wants to get burned. They will, in fact, melt the tip off of a screwdriver. So, yeah, drain them, please. You got 2 screws. One here. And one right behind this clip here. Right there. And then this pops out. If you're gentle with it. Just like that. The GD-ROM is next. You're going to find 3 screws, one here, here, and here. And you have to be careful with this one, because it can be a little tricky once you get all these screws out. The second part of this operation is a little complex. And if you're not... Oh, no, you know what? It just comes right off of there. So I lied. I lied to you. I lied. You're welcome. Now, I'm going to make note of a couple of things here before we go any further. If you're looking at this here, this is the controller board. And as you can see, there's the 1, 2, 3, 4 screws there. If you have a problem where everything else on the Dreamcast seems to work, but none of the controllers do, and this light here comes on just fine, your problem is very likely this little guy right here. Let's see if I can get that to focus for you. There it is. That's the F1 fuse. And that is replaceable. It's something you can't really get that particular part anymore. You can get a resettable fuse, and we'll cover that in another video. But that'll be the case. If it's not holding the date and time, obviously this battery is dead. You can replace that with a rechargeable battery or with a 2303 button cell, I think it is. But this whole assembly's got to come off because it's welded to the battery there. So let's see if we can focus this here real quick. There we go. Okay. So to take this off, we want to pull off that ribbon cable. That just comes right off of there. And then pull out this fan cable here. And make note that, here's another thing for you. If the Dreamcast comes on when you power it on, and it stays alive for like 30 seconds, and then blacks out totally, it's because this fan is either dead or disconnected. So you'd have to replace the fan, and it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to do so because it's got some feedback on it that tells the motherboard how fast the fan is spinning and whatnot. You can find something equivalent, and it'll work just fine. I can show you that in another video as well. So let's pull this around here. Okay. And we'll unscrew some more stuff. Let's see if I can keep my fat hands out of the camera here. All right. I had a recent problem with the F1 fuse on one of my other Dreamcasts that I have that's more of a donor system, really. It's just for parts. But once those screws are up, this basically, well, if you don't pull the plastic out with it, it does come right out of there and is easily replaceable. Alright, the motherboard is next. If you've been experiencing any kind of overheating problems or anything like that, there are some thermal pads, and this is I should mention as well, that this is a version 1 Dreamcast. And that's not going to want to focus for me. Well, it's a version 1. The version 0 that they had out there actually had some heat pipes going to actual heat sinks, and there was a temperature sensor that plugged into the motherboard, and there was a little bodge on one of the circuits there. But you're going to notice for this, we have a screw here, 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 and here, and here. So we'll pull those off. And you want to take a look at the condition of the thermal pads. Now, these are originals, and I have had this apart before. This machine is in pretty nice shape, I will say, and has one of the quieter GD-ROM drives that I've experienced. You get some of the ones that are made in China. This one's made in Japan, I think. No, this one's actually a China one. Yeah, some of them are that are made in China are actually a lot less reliable than the ones that were made in Japan. So you may run into that issue as well. It does not matter whether it was made in China or Japan. They are both easily as swappable. You can swap them out between the two and no harm will be done, and everything will be just fine. If you find that you want to go some alternative route with the GD-ROM, they also make, and it's rather expensive, I'll tell you, that's a couple $100 for a replacement GD-ROM that it replaces. It's got a connector there, and it's basically a board that snaps in just like the GD-ROM, except that it has, well, there's two versions. That one's got a compact flash card on it, and the other one has a USB, and eliminates the GD-ROM entirely. There we go. Okay. Yep, that thermal pad is still nice and floppy there. That's looking all right. Just put that back where it goes. Okay. And take a look at the Dreamcast motherboard there. It's very clean. I like how it's arranged. And look how small it is. I mean, it's just amazing the performance you get out of this compact little unit here. Yeah. So check these out. Make sure they're still, pliable and got some stickiness to them. And as long as they're okay, you can buy replacement thermal pads. You just have to look up the thicknesses, and there you go. So that's the teardown. Again, these are easily swappable, as you can see. I mean, it's just insanely easy. And so is the power supply, so is everything on this thing. And it's such a joy to work on. It's unbelievable. So there you have it. Back to this real quick. There are some, I'll tell you what, I'll take autofocus off. How about that? Okay. This little F1 resistor here. Can I get that again?
Focus break.
There we go. So this little F1 resistor, there's some talk on the web of replacing it with an actual resistor. Don't do that. That's not a good idea. There's also some talk of just bridging those two connections. Don't do that either. This will burn out if, let's say, you have your console on and you're plugging and unplugging and plugging and unplugging the controller back in for whatever reason. I don't know why you would do that, but it's basically surge protection, and it protects some circuitry that is off of this ribbon cable down in here somewhere, probably this chip, I would imagine. And yeah, just don't do it. Don't do it. Not a good idea. Installation is the reverse order, of course. There's no special tricks to it. You just put everything back together the way you found it. If you need to take notes, take notes. That's okay. Don't feel bad about that at all. Of course, I don't have to take notes.
But, you know, that's because I'm awesome. Or something. That's not really true. And you'll actually see how quickly this goes back together. Once you can find the screw hole. If I had a dime for every time I couldn't find the... well, never mind. Okay, there's that. All right. GD-ROM back in. Doop-a-doo. And there's that. Done.
That concludes the teardown and reassembly portion of it. I was going to do all this in one video, and I kind of discovered along the way that there's so much more to show you. There's this whole homebrew scene, there's this whole modification scene, and that kind of ties into the whole repair thing, because the GD-ROM, it's not like a CD-ROM, it's not like a DVD-ROM, it is in fact a converted CD-ROM. So it runs at half speed, and it runs more like a record player in the way that it stores its data, as opposed to a CD that's more uniform across the board. So it fits a gig rather than, 640 or whatever your CD-ROM burns to. So a lot of the homebrew scene, the only way to load that kind of stuff, or at least the easiest way to do it, is to do it on burned CD-ROM media, which is not good for the GD-ROM drive. It kills it slowly, and it's one of the biggest reasons that they die. So, aside from some more expensive options, replacing the GD-ROM, which, as I've said, it's hundreds of dollars, and probably well worth it. I mean, the guys that are doing those things, they're not making a lot of money doing it. It's costing them a lot of money to make them. So, supporting them is something I'd like to do eventually when I actually have some money. So I'm going to do another video. I'm going to do some replacement batteries. I'm going to go over replacing and actually soldering and in the replacement for the F1 fuse. And some other hardware modifications such as, a VGA port that can be put out of the back, which is also a really easy modification to do. There is an SD card reader modification that's also insanely easy to do. It's just, it's incredible. So stay tuned for that. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Again, down if you didn't. Leave a comment, subscribe, do a thing. Have a nice day, and take it easy.